Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the latest episode of the podcast. Apologies, we've had a few postponements lately to various reasons. So John and I have moved to early lunchtime kickoff as we record on Tuesday, 2nd of December. We thought we were going to have to get the pools panel in, but here we are. John, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, not bad. Yeah, I know we missed a few weeks. I missed a chance to do a summary the other week of. Hopefully, I was hoping to do a parody of the match of the day one, where someone got asked a question or was introduced in, and there was a pause.
Um,
And I was just going to say, on that day, City was shit, Liverpool was shit, Spurs was shit, somebody else was shit. I'm done, and they're getting paid fortunes for it. Must be a golden handcuff still. But I thought it was shocking. But
must be
anyway, there
going
we are.
on.
You can only do your own thing.
Indeed. And
And
on that summary, that's the end of this episode of the Football Uncensored podcast. City was shit, West Ham was shit, Spurs were shit, Punetry was shit.
oh my days, they
Um,
get paid. Oh, Christ knows what's going on in the world. Christ knows what's going on in the world. Yeah,
no,
I was gutted the other thing the Sunday when I got up Sunday. Um, just want to take time out. Very quickly. Didn't know him personally. Some great stories about him. Just uh, 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 sorry to hear the passing of Billy Bonds.
yeah,
Probably along with Alan Devonshire, my favourite West Ham player of all time. Um, Never got enough credit. Heard stories about him as being a lovely man, very humble, um, but a true he had everything really, which I think showed in the fact that he was so versatile. He played centre back, he played right back, he played midfield. Um, there's very few of us who can do that. Um, and during my career, I came into that category, and it never got any recognition. I'll tell you why it don't get any recognition because I should imagine people suss it out. Um, and what happens is you save the club an absolute fortune, whatever club you're at, and you're covering all these positions. In my case, it was much lower down. In his case, in the top flight, and then add to that his ability. The stories of his athleticism are legendary, where they used to do the cross country runs and he just put it into a fifth gear and just pull away and do it by a distance. Always doing extras, always helping the kids, and like an unbelievable warrior, but a gentleman off the pitch. I think I come up against him once, and even then, I think he played voluntarily or he was coming back from injury. I'm not sure. Football combination, Upton Park, big night for me in the respect that I was just started to captain the reserves. I just signed pro. I was just over 18. After the game, John Lyle asked Ken Shiletto, who was my former youth team manager, if he could take me on loan. Ken came down and asked, and I said no. And I think Billy was at the back that night, helping the kids. Um, Unbelievable, just a sad loss. But like, I don't know what went on behind the scenes, but very few people like that you come across in football. I've got to say, I'm speaking very honestly from the art. There's very few people like that you come across. And in the
mm,
last couple of weeks, I've had the experiences of it. Believe me, um, I've come across people who were in the game, and I'm not mentioning any names, but you would think they've found a cure for cancer. With regards to the way they conduct themselves, like the total lack of humility. Um, and at the end of the day, just an ordinary person who was able to kick a ball better than somebody else. Yeah, just a sad loss, and I feel really sorry for his family and his friends. Um, I thought he was fantastic. And little stories like Tony Gale would be talk about his athleticism. When I spoke to Gale, he said Billy Bonds. He said unreal. And I remember one thing. I was sitting there once, and he just said, "I'm just going out for a run." I mean, can you imagine this happening today? It'd be like image rights, agents' fees, appearance money, goal bonus, clean sheet, but this bonus, that bonus, the other bonus, left sock put on first bonus, tie-up bonus. John Lowell said something along the lines of, "Bill, we've got to have a chat." He said, "Well, what's wrong?" He said, "Well, your contract's coming up for renewal." And he went, "Oh, all right." He said, "Sort it out." He said, "And I'll speak to you when I get back." Sort it out, and I signed it. And apparently, he had a quick glimpse through it. He was so settled at West Ham, so loved there, and he signed it. And apparently, he went home, and his missus said, "How'd you get on?" And this is obviously all second hand, but you can truly imagine it. He said, "Yeah, all right, it's all right." He said, "We're all right for another couple of years," and that was how matter of fact he was. You know what I mean? So sad loss and sad
Yeah,
indictment of the game that he wasn't really used to any great extent after his stint um, as a manager. I know they went for him and went for him after I left the O's, and he quite rightly and wisely and cleverly said no. He had a stint at West Ham and Millwall. Um, but yeah, I think that was the mark of the man. But in my opinion, in summary, never got the real recognition apart from at West Ham that he deserved because versatility saves football clubs an absolute fortune. You know what I mean? Because we can put Bill there. You know.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
Quality
So rest
that's
rest in peace, Mr. Bonds.
yeah, echo that. I mean, the term legend gets bandied about a, a tedious amount and to some very undeserving people in all walks of life, not just football, but
Mm.
anyone who was,
I agree.
I
I
believe, a
agree.
South Londoner by birth and by residence, and played for Charlton before West Ham signed him, and then obviously went on to manage Millwall, but obviously regarded as a West Ham United legend and a London legend. Anyone who can command that status with
Just
those,
under 800 games, wasn't it? So it would be.
yeah,
Yeah.
with those divides, has got to be more than a decent bloke. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
R.I.P. R.I.P.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Billy Bonds.
Yeah.
But yeah, versatility and adaptability probably qualities that are very much taken for granted and have been taken for
Yeah.
granted.
They
But
have. They have by a lot of people.
yeah, you know more about that than me.
Mm.
We'll stay in London then to loosely um, move on from that somber opening. Arsenal Chelsea was the big game of the weekend. We don't want to go. I know you don't want to go too much into it, but we've got to touch on it as the big game of the weekend. Leaders against third or fourth, whatever it was for the state of play. One apiece, as everyone probably knows, bit of a intense game. Did you see it as a point gained for Arsenal or two dropped, or maybe look at it from the other way round? Over to you, John, really.
Yeah, I think probably two dropped as soon as Chelsea went down to 10 men. No different to any Arsenal Chelsea fixture when I played, with the exception of the hammering we got when I was in the side at Highbury on a Good Friday 5-2. We got hammered, absolutely hammered, but we had no one really in the side to stand up and be counted and put it about. It was like every man for himself. A lot of people shying out stuff, looking after themselves. Yeah, looking at it, fiery. Chelsea have got to sort out a discipline problem, I think, including the manager. That's 7 red cards or seven
Yeah,
plus the manager. I'm not 100% sure.
it's one or the other.
Unnecessary. I thought they bossed the first bit after the in inverted commas earning the right to play first 20 minutes where they're going at it. Everyone's putting a foot in, hammering on, closing down. Everyone's fresh. I thought the game settled down. They utilised their assets really well, Chelsea. I thought if you look at it, apart from the obvious ability, um, I think the game, you look at their game, it's based on pace and athleticism on the break. And I thought they carried it out and did it really, really well. And I know Arsenal without centre backs. It was difficult for me because I brought up an Arsenal supporter. I had a little bit of spell there as a kid. I was only 12. And then 6 years at Chelsea, like boy, youth and man. So it's hard. It's hard for me, but in the end, I just thought it's probably a fair outcome. I thought they exposed Arsenal for not moving the ball quickly enough. Um, Maybe trying to show a little bit too much composure. Very ironic that they got the goal from the masters of set piece. The masters
Yes,
of the
yeah.
set piece. Yeah, good goal. Probably a fair result, and I think probably a point earned. The fact they spent quite a bit of the game, probably two-thirds of the game, down to 10 men.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so watch this space. And I'll be honest, they've surprised me. What they've got to do now is, keep showing the consistency. Um, Still think it's Arsenal's to lose, um, but they could. It depends on the injuries, which is what I said. I said I've been saying it on Twitter for weeks. He's only just starting to ease back in. Gyökeres, however you say it, the Swedish centre forward.
Mhm.
But the key positions are centre backs. Um, so I don't like the rumblings with the other one as well. I don't get that. As someone who loved his football, and got bullied really with contracts at Gillingham and Leyton Orient, because the club held all the power then. All that to do was match the same money and they could retain your registration. And then again, like I said, with regards to Mr. Bonds, the versatility shown, play right back, even a game at left back, centre backs, midfield, to plug gaps for injuries and suspensions. You're saving the club fortunes, you know what I mean? Because they can't afford to get anyone in on loan. They can't afford to buy anyone. You're saving your club absolute fortunes. And I'm looking at it, and basically I probably had the piss taken more at the host because I was probably on the same money as the secretaries, you know what I mean? But when you look at it, I'm looking at the geezer, the story I was reading. He signed, I think, a contract till 2000, one of them, 2029, and there's rumblings on the TV station, and he's at to sort of try and hush it down. With regards, I might have mentioned it before actually. Interest from Real Madrid, which there's a lot of things. And when I look at the documentary I was watching last night, and then the two documentaries the night before, the Bobby Moore story, the Jimmy Greaves story, I'm watching a thing last night about coaching, the FA, lack of British talent in coaching and management, or lack of opportunity rather than lack of talent. I should have maybe worded it better. Um, I'm just thinking, well, all right, they're very well paid, but like, it's who would want the aggravation? You know what I mean? To try to set in this, keep putting out fires all the time. If you've shook hands and thing, but then I'm like I loved the documentaries the night before. Someone said on the Bobby Moore one, it was an age of relative innocence. Things sadly lacking now, like honour, integrity,
Mm.
bit of pride in what you're doing. Um, yeah, just I don't get it. And having to put out all these fires, I think it's up to the player himself. Well, all these things, the point I'm making is all these things could undermine the Arsenal's title challenge. And if he don't win it this year, that he's done. Um, and I don't think they'll level win it if they don't win it this year under Arteta. That's my take on it. Um, they've got the advantage. You've got to keep hold of it. It's all about there's a few teams that sussed out how they play. But it's all about maintaining now the professionalism.
Well, they got cheating as well. I think it's a five after the weekend. It's a 5 point lead going into the busy December period, where there's like 3 game weeks if you include Europe and that. So
Yeah,
this December's a usually quite a defining period, and we'll see come the new year where the table sits. It's pretty close behind Arsenal at the moment. I think it's something like 8 points from second down to about 16th, 15th or something ridiculous like that. But
yeah.
yeah, we shall see injuries. And I think going back to an early episode of this season that we recorded, you mentioned watch out as December starts to bite, watch out for the hamstrings and the things like that because of the summer activities. So we'll see if that comes to light as
Yeah, I
well.
remember, I remember, I remember saying it. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I remember saying it. And
And it's all
I still think the biggest threat will come from Man City.
mm,
I think Chelsea might fizzle out and maybe win one of the cups. They had a good summer, but I just think it start to catch up with them. Or will it? I mean, that's one of the advantages of going with youth. You
mm,
recover more quickly. You should do. Um, and you should be ready to play and train again after exerting yourself in a very competitive match. And normally
yeah.
with younger players, that's the case.
And a big squad helps, obviously, as
Yeah,
Chelsea
big
are
squad. Yeah, yeah,
known to have. Speaking of title contenders, that the early leaders, Liverpool, win the first five, lost six out of their next seven. A win at the weekend in London in at West Ham. um, who we've mentioned in respect of Billy Bonds already. West Ham we spoke about in recent episodes, and Nuno taken over and a little bit of an upturn, etc. But they also had a red card that we spoke about last night, and the fallout from that. But a win for Liverpool, is it corner turn time, or is it
Well,
well,
there's a couple of things, Rob. Um, all we can do is keep trying to do the right thing on the odd occasion when we do put a podcast out. But I think, pat on the back time again. I did say, um, first 5 games, Liverpool can't keep doing it and they won't keep getting away with it with regards to nicking a winner in the last 3 minutes or the last 2 minutes or the last minute.
yep.
And they're going to get exposed at the back. And so it came to pass. And it's something like 60 feet in 7. Probably unheard of. I think he's lucky. The respect that he's still got a bit of credit from last year. I don't think too much was probably done last year. They added, maybe tinkered with it. A lot of it was left over from the geezer before, although you can't dismiss his contribution, the manager's contribution, and um, very, very wisely, very cleverly. Unlike some of us who have done the opposite, made big mistakes, he didn't disturb it too much. He's quite famous for that, Ancelotti. He don't disturb it too much. He just manages what's there. I think he did tremendous last year. Um, Looking on the bench, I thought probably Salah made a bit of a scapegoat because he's listened to stuff in the media. He's still one of the best forwards in the Premier League for a long
Mm,
time, arguably the best forward in the Premier League. I had this disagreement with Lord Hudson. He said Mane, and I stuck with Salah. And so it came to pass that Salah's been magnificently consistent in terms of his goal scoring. They're going on about his contribution defensively. I happen to believe that players like that should be required to do something, but the bare minimum to keep them fresh for when they get the ball and hit teams on the break. I wouldn't be putting the bunting out at this moment in time if I were Liverpool, because I don't think I've ever done anything like that in my career where you hear a centre back or a centre midfield player air kicks the ball. West Ham kid, the black kid. You don't. That's down to lack of quality concentration. Um, you've got to pay attention to detail and you've got to concentrate solidly for 100 minutes. If you include half time, 115 minutes. And I thought it was just embarrassing for a Premier League player to do that. And
mm,
you've got to say after they've won a game, but it's only West Ham who I think they're still in the mix with regards to relegation. I would earmark. I don't think Wolves will get out of it, especially with the manager they've got now. He ain't going to tear
well,
up many trees. I don't think. I think Burnley struggling because as disciplined as they've shown they are, they've tried to ride games out, maybe get a 0-0. I've played in teams and had the misfortune to manage one where the best you can hope for is a 0-0 because your goal threat is minimal, as in one player, maybe two. You need a goal threat from everywhere and from set pieces. I don't think
mm,
Burnley have got that. So I would, in terms of what you mentioned when you messaged me, those would be two of my predictions. And then it could be anyone from the 3 or 4 clubs above. Um, but then I'm looking at it. I think Forest should be all right under Dyche. He's tried and tested. I like Nuno's style. I think West Ham might be all right. So it probably reduces me down to maybe the last team that came up, which is Leeds. Um,
yeah.
but most certainly, in terms of ingredients, but sticking to Liverpool, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be putting the flags out at any, at this moment in time. It's sad indictment, and I don't mean it as a pop. You've only beat West Ham, then you've got the sending off. Um, I don't know what he's trying to show there. If you're the manager, I think you've got to shout across to him. You've been booked. Calm down. Calm down. I would say it. If you like the player that much, which I think he blows hot and cold, and I'm an admirer, then I'm not an admirer. He does some unreal things, but he don't show the consistency and get hold of a game by the scruff of the neck. But if I need the player and I want the player and I like the player, I would be screaming at him. I need you. Calm down. And he talked his way into a red card. Ridiculous. You know what I mean? But I think it's along with Spurs. I think it's a cultural thing, as I've said before. Again, self pat on the back. It's a cultural thing, and I don't like the smell coming off the pond. and I think it's the case with West Ham. But I don't think Liverpool will be there or thereabouts. So I would probably look at somebody else. Maybe Chelsea third. If it's at City and Arsenal with the title, probably Chelsea or Newcastle third. That'd be my probably my top four.
Okay, good. Squeezed more than one prediction out of here, which
Yeah,
is better than I was hoping. So I'll give myself a pat on the back indirectly. You mentioned Newcastle there, and you've mentioned the promoted teams. So we'll give both of the Northeast clubs a bit of a G. One quite overdue. Sunderland, obviously
amazing,
back in the trend, very much
amazing.
back in the trend
Yeah.
of recently promoted clubs. So what do you make of their start? I think they're 21 points, fifth, sixth, something like that. It's
Oh, what I
just
can see there, Rob, is someone sent me a picture. Um, and it's probably the best way I can find to describe it. Someone sent me a picture of him. He's at a lunch with a group of old playing colleagues. Um, the club happens to be Spurs, and there's a couple of friends of mine. There's a friend, ex-playing colleague of mine, used to play for him. And I know the guy personally through business, and they went for a Christmas lunch. I said, "Isn't that nice? You've got a group of players who basically think enough of each other and respect each other enough to spend a bit of time together, remember each other before Christmas, and they respected each other's contribution in training and games. Albeit, yeah, they did win a couple of trophies in the early 80s, UEFA Cup and the FA Cup against Man City after a replay. And I think it's lovely. And I think that is the same type of thing that I look at Sunderland, and that I can see a togetherness. I can see a spirit. I can see it's almost as if I'm overly sort of romantic or romanticizing it, but you can't underestimate, Rob, how important it is, the vein that runs through a club with regards to the togetherness, the spirit. Um, he looks clued in and even on an even keel, the manager and his staff. I think the players uh, undeniable ability, more so in some areas than other. But you definitely can't question the commitment, the togetherness, and the fact that they play at a very high tempo and pace. And last but not least, the unbelievable support.
mm.
Maybe out of them or Leeds in terms of the teams coming up who will stay up. I fancy them actually more so than Leeds. I just think like they've got something going there, and both magnificent big clubs. So it's a win-win for the Premier League. Whoever stays up out of them two. I think Wolves are done. I think Burnley, like I said, not enough of a goal threat. Still, liable to concede. Doesn't matter how much the staff, the manager, and the staff and the players work on it. I've been in that position. You can work day in, day out. You know what I mean? And it's still down to that individual threat, and on the downside, individual mistakes or lapses of concentration that let you down, and leads to you possibly getting beat. I think Sunderland will be all right. I like to think they will anyway.
Well, like I say tremendous start and absolutely bucking the recent trend of the promoted clubs of the last few seasons, which
Yeah,
I know an awful lot about. Um, Newcastle, just very briefly, uh,
it'll have to be because I've
Newca
got to go work.
yeah, Newcastle 4-1 away win at Everton, who had
Yeah,
beat Man United earlier last week. Newcastle first win away in ages. Uh, Completely opposite of their home form. Did you see any tactical personnel tweak that clued Newcastle in
I
as
only saw,
suddenly
only saw, only
doing
saw the
that?
goals, and I think it was much of a lack of contribution from Everton. Probably the hangover from winning away at Man United. I
Hmm.
think it was as much as anything. Um, in terms of like whatever Everton didn't do rather than what Newcastle did do. But it might give them a bit of a G. You know, it might give Newcastle a bit of a G to do well away in Europe and in the Premier League and push on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think Moyes would have been too happy with some of the individual mistakes. Um, yeah, so it is what it is. But I'll tell you what it shows at the highest level where it's ruthlessly punished.
Hmm.
Yeah. But they'll be there or thereabouts, probably top five or six. I would think Newcastle they've got a good thing going there. But I'm going to stick with that, probably that top four.
Fair enough. Yeah, we
Yeah,
praised all your
Out of
praise.
City and Arsenal for the title. Chelsea, and then it might be Newcastle or a other.
Well, we'll see. Look, we said we've got a busy December period coming up. We've got some games tonight, tomorrow, Thursday, and then the weekend again, and then we're getting properly near Christmas. But unfortunately, as John's just alluded to, he's got to get out there and do battle with TFL indirectly. Uh, though everyone who watches this knows exactly what that means. So thank you for tuning in from me. We'll try and do a couple more through the festive period.
Absolutely.
Keep keep watching, sharing, subscribing, liking, anything you can to spread the word. Thank you very much from me.
Thanks
See
for
you
your
next
time,
time.
Rob. Thanks for your time, everyone. Hopefully, we do squeeze a couple in before Christmas, so we're able to wish our loyal subscribers a Merry Christmas. Cheers, Rob. Ta-ra, mate.
Absolutely. Cheers, mate. Have a good
Bye.
shift.